My God, I hate drugs.
This is a manifestation, but I would like to get a comment of the Martial Law Administrator, Secretary of the National Defense, Delphine Lorenzana, after my manifestation. Mr. Speaker, sa tingin ko, this is a band-aid solution to the problem. Last year, the same group of people came and asked for our consent for the martial law, and now after that for the extension, and now for another extension. Bakit ba pinag-uusapan ng martial law? Kasi may gulo. And we're talking about all the time the terrorist groups. Bakit ba may gulo? That is an ideology. We cannot, I have to admit, stop them from thinking the way they think. But we can stop them from recruiting supporters. And bakit ba sila nakaka-recruit? Doon sa mga probinsya, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, obviously nakaka-recruit sila ng mga kabataan, ng mga tao na walang choice kasi walang trabaho. Walang trabaho kasi hindi nakapag-aral. Hindi nakapag-aral kasi mahirap. Thank you to the President. Meron ng Free Tuitions Act. But that is not enough. Kung magkasakit ang membro ng pamilya nung nasa probinsya, tatakbo sa ospital, wala namang gamot sa ospital, wala namang panggamot. So, dahil sa kahirapan, madaling kumbinsihin ang mga kabataan na nakatambay-tambay lang. So, what is the solution which is not a band-aid solution? Real development in the countrysides. I'll tell you an example, Mr. Speaker. At Barangay Science in the city of Mati, merong salumpungan school doon some years ago. Eh wala namang ibang mapupuntahan yung mga bata. Kaya nung pina-enroll sila, talagang nag-enroll. At doon yung dumating na yung mga reklamo, what we did was to place a school. And just last May 25, upon the initiative of this representation, through the bill that I filed, naging batas, it's now a Republic Act, well-funded ang school. Wala na yung salumpungan. Kasi may choice na yung mga bata eh. So nandun na sila sa DepEd school. And if we do that in all agencies, Mr. Speaker, palagay ko kahit papanong recruit ng mga terrorist groups, eh hindi sila magiging successful. Kasi paano ba naman papayag ang taong may trabaho, magpaparecruit pa ba siya doon? So I'm calling on the Martial Law Administrator to look at this program not only through the AFP or the PNP's eyes, but also through the DOH. Lagyan natin ng pondo yung hospital doon, but also through the DTI. Lagyan natin ng livelihood program sa mga tao doon. Through the eyes of the TESDA, i-train natin, maka-qualify ang mga tao, and through the eyes of the DOLE, put them into jobs. And through the eyes of DepEd, of course, no, and CHED. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll be wrapping up. I'm done with my 3 minutes, but as I said, I want the opinion, the comment, the reply of the Martial Law Administrator. Madaling sabihin that there is a task force already created with all these agencies as members. But remember, the extension sought for now is only up to December of 2019. We do not want to be here again come December 2019 and waste time such as this. Sana before such time, sana by May, June, July, August, the barangays with no schools magkakabarangay na. Sana the local hospitals puno na ng mga gamot. And the doctors in the barrios are all available. Ito ang totoong solusyon, Mr. Speaker. May I now get the reply of the Martial Law Administrator? But yes, please go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, salamat po, Congressman, for that.
Majority Leader.
Yes, sir.
The Martial Law Administrator is about to reply, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, may proceed, Secretary.
Sir, we have we have already a solution to that. I think we have a solution to that we have suggested. We in the military and in the police have noticed for a long time the unequal development of our countryside. Yung mga lugar na hindi na-develop, yun ang prone to a lot of problems. And so we have now the Executive Number 70 that was just signed by the President last week. It is a task force. It's a whole-of-nation approach in attaining inclusive and sustainable peace, creating all over the country, especially in the most affected areas, yung mga depressed areas. And the President will be the head of this task force. And these are the agencies that will be under it: the Department of Interior and Local Government, the Department of Justice, Department of National Defense, Public Works and Highways, Budget and Management, Finance, Agrarian Reform, Social Welfare and Development, Education, NEDA, NICA, TESDA, the Advisor on Peace Process, the Advisor on Indigenous Peoples Concerns, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, the Director General of the Philippine National Police, Chairperson of the Commission on Indigenous Peoples, Secretary, Presidential Communications Operations Office. So ito po ay, this will be a whole of nation to tutukan natin yung mga depressed areas, bring in all the line agencies to do what they have to do. Kasama na yun yung ating security operation so that we can clear the area before this development could come in.
Mr. Speaker, just a quick rejoinder. Very quick lang. Nandyan na yung task force, okay? But by February of next year, budget call na. Kailan pa may sasama sa budget for 2020 yung mga recommendations ng task force? So we're running against time. Yun lang. Sana mabilisan yan, Mr. Speaker.
Meron pong mga budget yung mga respective departments that they can use to implement this the program of this task force.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Ansarudin Adyong from the 1st District of Lanao del Sur for his interpellation.
Honorable Adjong is recognized for his interpellation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Senate President and Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a short manifestation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Senate President, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, during the implementation of martial law, President Rodrigo Duterte and the AFP have exercised prudence and great care in protecting every right of our citizens. Security forces were able to maintain peace and order without violating the freedom and rights of our civilians. The checkpoints, curfew, and surrender of firearms have greatly helped in protecting our citizens. Mr. Senate President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, recovery and rehabilitation of Marawi City will only prosper if the people's safety is assured. For peace in Marawi City and Lanao del Sur, the provincial government of Lanao del Sur, the Mayor of Marawi City, the municipal mayors of Lanao del Sur, and this representation support the extension of martial law in Mindanao. Thank you, Mr. Senate President and Mr. Speaker. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Honorable Adjong. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the next to interpellate is from the 1st District of Zamboanga City, Representative Celso Lobregat.
Honorable Lobregat is recognized. Interpellate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this representation is from the 1st District of Zamboanga City, and we fully support the extension of martial law. more than 3 years prior to the start of the Marawi siege, which began on May 23, 2017, we painfully experienced the Zamboanga siege, which began on September 9, 2013. Perhaps if martial law was imposed in Zamboanga City when the Zamboanga siege began, the loss of lives and property in Zamboanga City could have been minimized and the pain and trauma could have been much less and the siege shortened. Yesterday, in our briefing on martial law, on the extension of martial law was discussed in relation to the BOL, the Bangsamoro Organic Law, to the plebiscite, to the election, and to the gun ban. Earlier, our colleague from Lanao Norte, Khalid Mapuro, was talking about the gun ban and the non-surrender or non-return of the firearms of the MILF. Mr. Speaker, when we have a plebiscite, when we have an election, there is a gun ban. More so with martial law, we would expect that all law-abiding citizens, whether MILF or non-MILF, adhere to the gun ban. However, as mentioned earlier, the return of the firearms will come in 3 or 4 phases, which will last for several years. Can I have the comment of the AFP or the OPAP in relation to the non-return of firearms during this period, especially martial law, in terms of the plebiscite that will be held on January 21 and the election that will be held on May 2019?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. President.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, my time is running.
The armed forces continues to get all these loose firearms. Araw-araw po yan, yan ang ating ginagawa na makulimbat natin lahat, makolekta natin lahat yung mga loose firearms dahil para hindi ito magamit ng masamang paraan sa eleksyon.
Mr. Speaker, we are not talking of loose firearms. We are talking of firearms wherein the MILF is allowed not to return the firearms until several phases of the Bangsamoro Organic Law are completed. And this will take several years. So habang may plebisito, habang may eleksyon, habang may martial law, yung armas nila nandun pa sa kanila.
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, ito pong mode of accounting for the firearms at sa surrender ng firearms, turnover ng firearms ng MILF, ay nakalagay po yan sa peace agreement, and I'm afraid we have to abide by it, but rest assured that we will do all what we can to control them so that they will not be used illegally.
Mr.
Thank you,
Speaker, I know
Honorable
there is a
Obrigado.
peace agreement, but we also have martial law. And that is why we expect that because of martial law, everybody will become a law-abiding citizen and comply with the gun ban.
We will ensure that we will enforce the laws according to the martial law and according to all the laws of the land, Mr. Speaker and Mr. President. And we will ensure that no people with firearms, even if they are MILF, will be roaming around without supervision and control. in the areas of operation.
My last point, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Your time is up. Sorry.
Okay.
Honorable Brigada. Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the next to interpellate is the representative from the 2nd District of Misamis Occidental, Representative Henry Oamenal.
Honorable Oamenal is recognized to interpolate.
Mr. Speaker,